never imagined I would reach the point where my life felt like a nightmare. Betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak all came crashing down at once. But this is my story, how I discovered my wife's deception and took control of my life in the only way I could. My name is Kashan. I had been married to my wife, Mahnoor, for 9 years. To everyone else, we looked like the perfect couple, a comfortable home, stable jobs, shared friends, and the kind of relationship people envied. I loved her with all my heart and trusted her implicitly. Everything changed when subtle signs began to appear. Late nights, secretive phone calls, and unexplained absences started to pile up. At first, I tried to dismiss it as paranoia. I told myself I was imagining things. But deep down, I felt a gnawing suspicion something was very wrong. Then came the discovery. I was checking emails on our shared computer when I stumbled upon messages between Mahnoor and a man I didn't know well, a colleague she had met at work. The messages were intimate, flirty, and explicit. I froze, reading and rereading them, trying to believe they weren't real. But they were. The evidence was undeniable. Mahnoor had been having an affair for months. My heart shattered in a way I never thought possible. Every memory of our marriage, every promise we had made, felt tainted by her lies. I confronted her immediately. She didn't deny it. Instead, she tried to rationalize her actions, saying she had been unhappy, that she needed excitement, that I had been too distant. Her words were hollow, excuses to mask the truth of her betrayal. I realized that staying and arguing would only give her power. She had violated my trust in the deepest way possible. I needed to act, and not out of anger, but with clarity and purpose. I meticulously gathered proof of her infidelity. Messages, emails, photographs, and witness statements from friends who had noticed unusual behavior. I wanted to ensure that when I took the next step, there would be no room for denial. The day I served her divorce papers was surreal. I handed them to her personally, calmly, without a word of accusation. She looked at me, shocked, angry, and hurt, but I didn't flinch. My emotions were under control because I knew this was the only way to reclaim my life. The divorce process was difficult. Mahnoor tried to fight, claiming emotional distress, attempting to manipulate mutual friends and family. But with the evidence I had compiled, her arguments fell apart. The court ruled in my favor. She lost claims to our shared property, assets, and even attempts to manipulate financial support. Watching her face the consequences of her actions was both painful and cathartic. She had taken our marriage for granted, betrayed my trust, and attempted to rewrite reality. But the law and the truth caught up with her. After the divorce, I disappeared from her life completely. I moved to another city, changed my routines, and focused on rebuilding myself. The silence became a shield against further manipulation, a boundary that allowed me to heal. Months later, I learned that Mahnoor's life had suffered consequences far beyond the legal system. Friends distanced themselves, family relationships became strained, and her social reputation suffered. The life she had wanted, built on deceit, collapsed around her. For me, the emotional toll was immense. Nights were filled with memories of happier times, of a love that now felt poisoned by betrayal. But over time, I found strength in the fact that I had acted decisively, protecting my dignity and future. The hardest lesson I learned is simple but brutal. Betrayal changes everything. Trust, once broken, can never be fully restored. And sometimes the only way to reclaim your life is to remove the betrayer completely. Serving the divorce papers was not an act of vengeance. It was an act of self-preservation. It was a declaration that I would no longer allow lies and deceit to control my life. And disappearing from her life was the final step, leaving her to face the reality of her choices. Mahnoor's affair destroyed her relationships, her reputation, and her security. For me, exposing her and ending the marriage was painful, but it was also necessary. I reclaimed my life, my dignity, and my peace of mind. The story isn't about revenge for the sake of revenge. It's about the realization that betrayal carries consequences, and that taking control of your own life is the ultimate power you can have. My wife was exposed. She was served divorce papers, and in the silence that followed, I finally found closure, healing, and the ability to move forward without the weight of betrayal on my shoulders.